What is up, Gorilla Nation? It is Relentless here, bringing you yet another Division 2 build video. If you happen to be new to the channel, or you're just enjoying the content, then please be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. Also, reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications, so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. Okay, first and foremost, the gameplay for this particular build is in the description below. Full-length gameplay, I'll link it down there, so go check it out if you want to see some gameplay. But I will add a clip or two into this build itself video. But if you want to see the extensive version of the gameplay, then check out that link in the description below. But without further ado, let's hop right into the build.
Deleted, erased from existence.
Damn, Relentless, don't worry. I'll still smash and pound that like button.
Oh, I appreciate it, buddy. I love you.
Hell yeah.
It's all GG. Deleted, erased from existence. Love you.
Let's hop right into the build. This monster at 486.6k armor, 161.7k health, 650k total toughness. So let's hop into the weapons themselves. That's all personal preference on what you want to use. In that gameplay video, as you'll see, either I'm utilizing the Pestilence and RPK or the military MK46 along with the Pestilence, but it's your personal preference. But 32.5 on the military MK46 with Unhinged, Allegro, Everlasting. Of course, Everlasting, not really that much of a holster talent. I prefer like Protected Reload. That's on my RPK. But whatever you have and whatever you personally prefer, then use it as your primary. And of course, as the secondary, a 30.5k Pestilence. And of course, we all know how we turn those in the Dark Zone into a mist of piss, so to speak, or we pestifying people, pestification, hallelujah. But anyways, its main benefits not only to cutting healing in half of your enemies, but also the Outcast Resilience. While holstered, gain 20% bonus armor for 5 seconds whenever you are affected by blind, bleed, or burning. With the whole status effect meta, it comes in quite handy, especially with 486k toughness and getting 20% of that once you get put on status effect, either any of those three or a combination of all three together. Then that additional proc of armor definitely comes in handy, and unless they're spec completely into that damage by status effect, I'm getting well over I see 20% of 400k armor, so roughly almost 100k just as bonus armor to help combat those status effects. And of course, the go-to, which is my favorite so far alongside the Pestilence, would be the RPK at 29.2, Unhinged, Allegro, Protected Reload. And of course, since I'm utilizing the MK46, I have Protected Reload under my sidearm, but if I happen to be using the RPK that already has the Protected Reload, then I'll switch to the Officer's Pistol with Greased, while holstered weapon swap speed is increased by 10%, which is not too much, but it definitely can pay off and come in handy when you're switching between your primary and secondary. Now, if you wanted to, you could go with the sparked route, but then that would take, one slot just for utilizing a holstered talent. So at least this way, with utilizing the Pestilence, I can not only hit hard and utilize and shoot with the Pestilence, but also use its holstered talent. So that is my personal perspective. Now, this is one variation, and I'll show you the other variation if you want to go a little more on the DPS side and utilize Berserk. I do have one at 446k armor and 156.2k health. Now, the main difference is of course the DPS values. Now, it is up to you whether you want to, say, sacrifice some of that toughness, almost 40k armor and like 10k health, so 50k of toughness in order to get those procs from Berserk and utilize some extra DPS. But if you want a little extra on the tanky side, then I have this version. The only difference is just switching out the chest piece. So what is that particular chest piece? Well, this one has 16% total armor, then 38,872 armor, and then 8% weapon damage, and I'm just utilizing hardened here for the plus 15% total armor. So essentially on this chest piece by itself, I'm getting 31% total armor and also 38,872 armor. Then I have a defensive and an offensive mod slot. On the offensive, I'm getting 6% weapon damage going to my LMG. The defensive mod slot, 4885 armor, 2.5% total armor, then 4419 health. Now let's go to the other main components of this build, and that is the 2-piece Heliguard, and then we'll go into the 2-piece True Patriot, and then the last but not least, the 1-piece Petrov. Let's start with the backpack. So I sacrifice any kind of weapon damage for a total of 20.5% total armor. So now, just from the attribute slots on my backpack and chest piece, we're over 50% armor right there. And then you throw in the 5% total armor that one piece gives you of the Heliguard, then we're almost at 60% total armor percentage-wise just on the chest piece and backpack alone. And of course, we have the Vital and then the Skilled. Now, this would be the perfect backpack if I did have Skilled off of there and instead had the talent Spark. So that way, you know, I could still utilize it, even though I'm not, you know, using Spark per se as the Merciless as my secondary. But with just typical grenades, you can also proc Spark as well. So at least I would be able to use it somewhat instead of just a talent that, you know, is darkened out to where I can't utilize it at all. Then 14,215 armor, and then 20,791 health. Of course, Vital with that 25% health. And then the offensive and defensive mod slots, we get another 6% LMG damage. And then the mod slot for defensive wise, 4865 armor, 2736 health, and then 3.5% total armor. Now the second piece of Heliguard, of course, as you see, I have Composure here, and that is for the other version, because on this particular build, I'm one offensive Lego short of having being able to utilize Composure. So if I want the extra DPS, then I switch to the chest piece with Berserk on it, and then I can utilize Composure. But if you don't want to use Berserk and want some extra tankiness, then instead of the Composure here, just go with Patience, in which gives you 5% armor after being in cover for more than 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, every second thereafter, you get 5% armor. So it definitely works out really, really handy. But this one has 13.5% total armor, and of course, 2 defensive mod slots. In the first one, 5991 armor, 3% total armor, 2149 health. The second one, 6056 armor, 2806 health, and then 2.5% total armor. Now, of course, the 2-piece True Patriot. On to the mask. Now, I had this set up, this particular mask, for my LMG crit build, thus the crit chance. But if to make my health pool even over 200k and have just as much armor, instead of that 7% crit chance, if I can find a mask that has a good health value on it, like this one has at 29,000, and then put a percentage of armor that comes on the likes of these Murakami masks, that just additional 5% health here in that slot, then that's going to boost my health even further. Then we have an offensive mod slot where I'm getting a 5.5% going to my LMG. Now, it's just like this holster is just like my mask, still trying to find the optimal one. This one has 40,125 health, but instead of that skill power, if I can get a percentage of health like my Heliguard here, then essentially if I had 14% with that 41 on a True Patriot piece, as you can see, my health would go up to 181k health instead of it currently being 161. So I would gain 20% or 20,000 health right there and put me at 181. Then add the additional 5% from the mask that I can potentially get, and with just those two things and optimize those, I could well within reach of 200k health and still have almost 500k armor. And that is my ultimate goal, is to hit a total of 700k total toughness without losing DPS in the process. And this mask, this holster, excuse me, here I have 2 offensive mod slots, just like the Heliguard has 2 offensive mod slots in it as well. And for both of these combined, I'm getting 11% LMG damage. Now to the last piece, which is 1-piece Petrov. And for that 1 piece, you get 11% LMG, well, 10% from the baked in for having 1 piece. And then as attribute roll, I have 11% LMG damage, and of course 3% crit chance with Devastating, which gives me another 5% weapon damage. Still trying to craft those motherly gloves to get a 13% roll, so a little extra 2%. It's not going to be very much, but you know, every little bit helps when it comes to min maxing. So now let's go over the character sheet. 32,541. There's the PvP modifier. Reload speed bonus, accuracy, stability, and this is my overall weapon damage. On my military MK46, we're getting a total of 97.5% weapon damage. And then of course we switch to the pestilence, and with the pestilence we are getting 77.5% weapon damage, or all damage combined going to the pestilence. And there is the rest of it as follow. 20% hazard protection from the 2-piece Healer Guard. And speaking of hazard protection, if you wanted to say as a backup, if you run into things in the dark zone and you need a little bit more hazard protection on here, well, it's just a matter of, since I'm not utilizing composure anyways on these knee pads, I would lose an offensive mod slot, my mask, but I would just put on the likes of, let's say, this mask right here, which gives me same amount of health. I'm still at 161 health, but it will have perfectly insulated with 50% hazard protection plus the one piece at 60 plus the 2 Healer Guard. That would put me at 80% hazard protection, and then I'm good to go. So it's just a matter of swapping out your mask and your knee pads, one being True Patriot, switch that to your knee pads, and of course the Healer Guard up here into your mask slot, and then you're good to go. Or if you want the extra, want over 100%, then you could, I'm pretty sure, find a mask, even the True Patriot like it is, and then forego the percentage to health, and instead put on, say, 55% hazard protection, so that way you can leave it as is and still have 75% total hazard protection. And of course, the other version that I showed you, the only thing that's different, like I said, is basically just the chest piece, but as you can see, the composure is active. And then what's on this Fenris piece is 6.5% weapon damage, 39,817 armor, then of course hardened, another 15% armor. And then this particular one just has an offensive mod slot versus the other chest piece that I have that has 2 defensive slots. And just having those 2 defensive slots, that's where I'm able to get that additional armor, in which you see that I've actually lost. It's I think a total of like 38,000 armor and roughly 5,000 K health. So not that much difference. It just depends on your personal preference when it comes to the exact numbers and your comfort zone when it comes to your armor and your health pool. But I hope it gives you something to shoot for, something different. And as you see on this one, the MK46 is still over 32. But in this one, you can utilize the Eagle Bear just for the holster talent. And the holster talent for it is Protected Fire. While holstered, gain 10% bonus armor while firing your current weapon. So if you predominantly just want to go with the whole 1 LMG variation, then you can go this way. You can throw on Spark, or just do it like how I do it with an RPK Pestilence or MK46 and Pestilence. And some cool things to go over with utilizing, or when choosing more or less a specialist, I went with the Gunner, because by applying an armor kit, you get a bonus of 50% additional armor for a few seconds after you pop an armor kit. Also, staying stationary for a moment increases your weapon handling. Also, over time, for those of us that like to run, say, double LMGs running off the same ammo pool, then it regenerates ammo a little bit every so often. I think it's like 90 rounds like every minute. So that definitely comes in handy amongst other things. As far as when it comes to RPM, after every kill you get a boost in RPM. So after 1 kill, your RPM goes up, especially if you got the RPK, and then every kill thereafter, then your RPM continues to increase for a period of time. So there's different things that you can go for. You could go for the likes of, let's say, the survivalist. If you want to go the double heal route, you could go with technician, and instead of the additional health, you can go into skill power, where the offensive part here is, and would put you up to 1,000, and then the technician gives you plus 50% skill power. So really minuscule, but you can probably work other skill power in there and still just hit just as much and just as hard. It just depends on your personal preference. Some like to go with the demolitionist, just to nullify a grenade, or to use the special ammo grenade launcher in the dark zone, or those that like to run the spark, then utilizing the demolitionist will give you an extra explosive damage if you're running the merciless as your secondary along with another LMG. So it's just whatever your personal preference is, but this has actually worked out good for me. If I need extra DPS for my squad, then I can switch to this, but if I'm good at my role, then I can just stay with this one and be a little extra tankier and still dish out tons of damage. But I thank you guys so much for tuning in. I don't mean to talk your ear off. I just wanted to get and convey all my points and my line of thinking when it comes to making builds. But thank you guys. We'll see you later.